Remember, silence or turn off your cell phones before your viewing experience.
Mm-hmm.
What? We all started laughing at it, but he was almost right.
All right, let's get into the Crow.
So we're back for one of our focus episodes, and this time decided to do the Crow.
Guess it's not a good day to be a bad guy, huh, Skank?
Bad people out on the street tonight.
What the fuck are you supposed to be, man?
I want all of you boys to be able to look me straight in the eye one more time and say, "Are we having fun or what?"
Is that gasoline I smell? No, man. No!
Mainly because there's a remake coming, and I figured we would discuss the original and maybe bring some attention to the original one before the remake, I don't want to say bombs, but will likely suffer.
I thought we all agreed on being open to the new movie.
I'm hopeful for the new movie.
Good, Richard.
I'm realistic.
Shut up.
Let's just look at, before we get into it, let's just look at, of the recent remakes that have come out, how many remakes have actually been good?
The Godzilla movies have been pretty good.
They're not remakes, though.
Fun monster
Yeah, they're
movies.
continuations.
Godzilla is pink. Come on.
But this is this a remake too, or is it just a different Crow story? Because it's not the same story.
I think it is. It's just from what I've read is, okay, we don't want to go into it.
We'll see.
We'll see.
The new Spider-Man is really freaking cool, and I mean, hot take. I think Marvel got it right this time.
Well, on the topic of comics, we can talk about The Crow, because it was a comic.
It was a comic, and boy, was this movie very comic book-like.
Absolutely. It looks like a comic.
Mm-hmm.
They shot it like a comic. It felt like a comic. Mm-hmm. Kind of went through the stories like,
Yeah, before other films got a lot of attention for being very graphic novel-y, like Sin City, things like that. This really did it first, and I think it did a very good job.
So recently they released a version on, I'm not promoting anything, but it released on Paramount Plus in HDR, where they brought the cinematographer back to remaster it. And there was some press about the remastering, and the neat thing was, apparently him and the director wanted to originally shoot this black and white, like the comic, because the comic was a black and white comic. It was not a color comic. And of course, to get financing, no production company is going to allow a black and white movie to be released, really, because they just don't typically do well in cinema. So he ran through a pretty interesting process to shoot it to where they weren't allowed to use any blue on set, because what they ended up doing was putting a really heavy sepia tone on it, and then putting a blue filter over it to wash it out. And it became really close to black and white, but washed out. So I think what we'll do for the rest of this episode, instead of color, we'll snap over to the same process he used, and now we're in The Crow. Excellent.
I feel so gothic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the set pieces for the movie were actually reused for the Matrix.
Oh, cool.
So they used a lot of those set pieces in the Matrix. Other one, the stuntman that filled in for Brandon Lee was actually Keanu Reeves' stuntman on The Matrix.
Okay. Other one, the stuntman, he directed the John Wick movies.
Yes. So that's so that this movie, as you said, has influence on other ones. It's also because a lot of people that are involved in it have
it transcended its own.
Well, so one of the things that those movies, like The Matrix, let's focus on that for a second. One of the things it got right was really good, quality movie cinematography with iconic comic book style posing. getting the right angle, making people look awesome, shooting them from non-traditional angle, like up nostril shots that made their silhouette look good. Stuff that a lot of people may never do, but it made them so iconic. And that happened in this film a lot. They were trying they had their storyboard. They're like, I want this shot, I want this look. When Brandon Lee goes to, when he's reliving the trauma after he's come out of the grave, and he gets back up to the apartment and he runs towards the window, grabs onto the window, swings out, and then comes back and then drops. He does this twist drop, and it is such a well choreographed movement. It looks so cool. It's somewhere between action and interpretive dance.
Right.
Very evocative.
Which was the stunt guy that did that. And also, too, I mean, they've said they use the graphic novel as almost a storyboard. They used a lot of the shots from that to get that. And if I'm not mistaken, Alex Proyas, the director, I think it's his first movie. Because right after this, he went on to Dark City, which is also one of my favorite. So after this, he Dark City, which this movie, he said, influenced Dark City when he had all those miniature set pieces. When they would be removing them for different scenes, that what gave him the inspiration of Dark City. When all the city would manipulate, it was all because of those set pieces moving on that. That's what gave him the inspiration. One of the reasons the editing on this one was a little messy was there was an entire character removed from the movie.
Oh, you said that before.
Yes, there was a character in there, and he's in the comic called the Skull Cowboy. So the way they ended in the movie was the crow was the source of his power. And in the comic book, in the source, that was kind of true. But what it was a Skull Cowboy was a character who was his guide. And the theory in the later comics was that it was a version of Eric that happened before, but he didn't finish his quest, so now he's just kind of in limbo. So now he guides people who are going through the same thing, that you are brought back to get revenge, and revenge only. So there's a lot of weird cuts to where what happens is, like, a good example, I think one of the first places Skull Cowboy shows up to explain it is when, after he kills Funboy and saves, what's her name, his mom?
Darla.
When he saves Darla, the Skull Cowboy comes back and said, this is not your mission. Your mission of revenge. And he punishes him and it takes away his powers. So the next scene you see, he's wrapped in electrical tape and his clothes are tore. He took his powers away and he was attacked and he got beat and almost killed. And that was his punishment for breaking off.
Breaking the code.
That's
like
interesting
a code.
because this time when I saw the film, I noticed that when I was younger watching it, I was just like, awesome revenge movie, superpowers, whoa, he's so cool. But this time when I was watching it, I did notice that Brandon Lee in this role, more than any other role he had, was so emotional.
You didn't say goodbye.
You're just gonna have to forgive me for that.
And that emotion came across, and it was like his strength was waning the longer he spent with any real people.
Which he was being punished for any time he broke off his path.
Yeah.
He was punished.
I kind of wish I would have known that before we watched this, because I kind of want to rewatch it again.
But Sarah even says that. She's like, she's talking to, I can't remember the cops, Albrecht.
Yep.
She's talking to him, and she's like, he said we can't be his friends anymore because he's not alive.
Yeah.
Or because we're alive.
Because we're alive, yeah.
Right.
Eric didn't come back for me. You can't be my friend anymore because I'm alive.
Do we want to go over the plot of the Crow like we do for most films?
Yeah, we can.
Or
There ain't no coming back. This is the really real world. There ain't no coming back.
One of the neat things about the Skull Cowboy is who played him. Is Michael Berryman. If anyone remembers Michael Berryman, did you ever see The Hills Have Eyes?
Yeah.
Remember the bald guy with the weird, he always plays a weird one. Place I remember Weird Science? The bikers that show up?
Can we keep this between us?
wait, Guyver.
He might have been in that. I remember
Guy,
the guy
like bald guy, very hawkish nose.
but like he's like no hair.
He
So
looked, he's like an alien.
Yeah, Michael Berryman. Yeah, so
Okay.
he played the Skull Cowboy. Apparently, they didn't like the look of it, but when you look pictures online, it actually looked kind of cool.
Wait, so they actually filmed Skull Cowboy in this movie,
and then edited him
and then
Edited
the
him
whole
out.
character didn't make it on in the movie. It made it on the floor.
Yep. In post-production, it was completely
cut.
edited out, which is why some of the cuts are really weird, because they had to cut them out, why some of the storyline didn't fully fit it, or didn't fully fit, because like you said, it looked like his power was weaning the whole time, which is true, but if you would have known, the reason was because he was breaking the
code.
Yes, that would have been... It would have been a neater story, so it kind of sucks that was removed.
Do you know why it was removed?
It could have been anything from someone didn't like the way he looked, someone didn't like...
Well, the thing about this now is it's such a cult classic, that it would almost be nice to see an unedited version of it out with the way it was intended to be viewed. That would be kind of interesting to see that.
Yep.
With this other character in there, and with all the other cuts that didn't necessarily make it. Well, I'm going to say something because I love one of the opening lines of this movie, and I wrote it down because I think it was so iconic and so wonderful. Is
Childhood's over the moment you know you're gonna die.
how wonderful is that line?
Not only a good line, but also said by one of probably the best voices in Hollywood right now.
For fuck's sakes, die, will you? Give me that thing.
The actor that plays Top Dollar.
Michael Wincott.
Yes. That voice.
Michael Wincott.
I put a note there, two of the best voices in the movie, or two of the best voices in Hollywood are in this, and that's Top Dollar, when he says stuff like that, and the other one is T-Bird, you know who T-Bird is? Warriors, come out to play.
Come out and play.
That's the same actor. So those are the two most iconic voices in my head of all Hollywood movies of those two guys. And I love that. But
you didn't like Skank?
All this happy horse shit.
You think Skank was that kind of voice? Oh man, T-Bird.
Although he did have the second best line.
Fire it up. Fire it up.
He did the second best line.
I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook.
Your mom must be really proud of you.
That's a pretty good impersonation. That's good.
Your mama must be damn proud of you.
But I mean, a lot of people haven't seen The Crow. My roommates, neither of them actually liked this movie at all.
Yeah.
Really?
Like they one of them didn't get through like 30 minutes of it, and another one said, "Yeah, it never really was for me."
And if you're watching this, you got bad taste.
Ooh, I didn't say it.
I'll come find me. Before we get too far, who wants to go through? How does the movie start?
I want to do the summary since you guys are super duper fans and you're going to take over the entire speaking part of this with your enthusiasm.
I love it.
I'm going to start the summary. So it's kind of starting out with, of course, the crow appearing in very mysterious ways.
Which is a raven.
Yes, we established that as well. The crow is actually a raven. But oh my. Then our main character gets up from the grave. Feels a bit wobbly apparently and doesn't know what happened, and then we see what has happened in the past as kind of backflashes recurring to him while he's stumbling through the places. What had happened was that the group of the bad guys raided the apartment because they all had signed a petition because there were things going wrong in the building, and they wanted to just mess up all the people.
And they were
who
trying to
signed
evict them. They were trying to evict him out of the building, and these guys were like, "No, we're going to file this thing with the city."
Yep, that's right. It was an eviction. So yeah, the guys were just regular bad guys trying to make people.
But we don't find that detail out till later. It's kind of
That's true.
She was fighting tenant eviction in that neighborhood?
Shelley Webster and her nice rock and roll boyfriend, Eric Draper.
Yeah, but they're taking it a bit far, so they kill him, or well, not yet kill him, but stab him with a throwing knife, then rape his girlfriend and mutilate her, then throw him out of the window, shooting him, throwing him out of the window, killing him pretty much. And what we also learn a bit later, of course, also his girlfriend died from the injuries. And now he knows he needs to go avenge.
Shelley Webster held on for 30 hours in intensive care, and the body finally just gave it up.
Right.
And he wakes up, and that scene where he's crawling out of the ground, he looks like he's in so much agony. I have never seen anybody who looked more like they had full body pins and needles. It was actually pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was well acted. He really found his own in this movie for sure.
He did, because he's got the weirdest voice, right? Like everybody wants to worship Brandon Lee, and I do too. But nobody's willing to say the hard things, and I'm willing to say the hard things. His laugh is too deep; it's awkward. and his voice is also like way too throaty sometimes and way too nasally other times.
Right.
He's just got a weird method of speaking, and so did his dad Bruce. He just has the weirdest fucking voice. But in this movie, I wasn't paying attention to his weird voice because he was really selling it, like the gothic kind of emotional torment, darkness, and he sold vulnerability really, really well.
Listen! I'm sure you'll remember.
Well, and also I think a thing that brings that emotion, they say water is, controls our emotions, right?
Lots of rain.
Lots of rain. It's
can't rain all the time.
You beat me to it.
I wish the rain would stop just once.
It can't rain all the time.
Eric?
What happens after he gets out of the ground?
So he goes
she already got. Now we're at the point where he died. Like he had the flashbacks he did, and then the neat thing about this. All right, so one thing before we go too far in that, one of the neat things about this movie that set it apart from a lot of movies back then, and certain people still use to this day, is how important not only the soundtrack was, but incorporating the soundtrack into it. Because right when we had the flashback, when he's doing the flashbacks, he's putting the makeup on because he had the flashback of the mask. And it's when one of the most interesting Cure songs, like they wrote the song for the movie and never performed it until recently. They refused to perform the song. But it's such a great Cure song, which is why we've got little Robert Smith right here.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, we brought little Robert Smith.
That's a really good song, Robert.
Yes. And it's a perfect use of that song while he's doing his makeup. And throughout the rest of the movie, almost every song on the soundtrack makes it into the movie. And when I think of like the movies that people like today that does that really well, we're like, what's his name? Gunn. James Gunn. On Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad movie he did, it was the same thing. He put together a powerful soundtrack and worked the songs into the movie. And that's what they did here. And there probably were other movies that had happened in before this, but this is the first one that I remember seeing that was like, oh wow, they put so much effort into the soundtrack, and it was a music of its time. I mean, really music of its time, and it fits so well.
And there was a score that went with it too for a lot of in between scenes. But then, really, when the action was the punchiest, there was a cool fucking song playing.
Well, and I think the point of that was to make you feel the movie as well as visually. It was so visually stimulating that that you got the full aspect of everything. You got to hear the music, feel the music, watch the movie, see this death and rebirth, and this character come back.
And the character Eric Draven was also a musician, so it like felt it worked thematically.
Right.
Yep. Which is a minor modification from the comic. In the comic, he was a mechanic, but. Side weird thing too. All right, and the other thing is if you pay close attention, because you had asked where does this movie take place. If you pay close attention, there are two hints
near Lake Erie. One saw Lake Erie burning because all the junk that they throw in it.
There are two hints of where this takes. It takes place in Detroit,
Michigan.
Because the reason is the one he says when they're doing the next scene is when we see the whole gang. At the bar, and they're trying to outdo each other. Takes a shot and burns his tongue.
Well, they're
swallowing a bullet.
One of them swallowing a bullet. And
all
then,
of them do.
Yeah, and then the one he pulls his gun out, and it's when the other one's like, "I bet it's not even loaded," and puts a gun. They all stand there. T-Bird stands up and says, puts the gun. He's like, "Which one of you, Motor City? Was it Motor City something? Motherfuckers or something?" But he says Motor City, which is Detroit.
Which of you, Motor Motor City motherfuckers wants to bet me this one isn't.
And later in the movie, when Darla is cooking breakfast, when they're watching news, they're talking about Devil's Night. They're showing clips and it says Detroit and on the news on the TV.
Oh.
And so there's little hints when it takes place in Detroit.
Okay.
Little side thing, but yeah.
Dope.
Yeah. I know way too much about this movie, honestly. Like, down to the fact that Brandon Lee was not happy with his makeup. The makeup artist, they didn't like it. So what he did was he got with the director and said, I'm going to do it myself, and then I'm going to sleep. And the next day, so it looks worn, I'm going to sleep with it on one night, and then so I'll always put it on the night before we shoot or the day before we shoot, so I sleep with it. And
turns out it worked.
It turns out it worked. Yeah, he did his own makeup every hours before the shoot, and then went to sleep. And so like little thoughts like that show like, yeah, he had talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, he really came into his own in this film.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Fortunately, he came into his own.
Fortunately, he came into his own. But
why unfortunately?
No. Because this was his last great film. It was his first great film.
I thought we weren't talking about
his great film.
I don't know.
We weren't talking about it until we're talking about the movie.
Rapid Fire was pretty good. The movie he did before this. I enjoyed Rapid Fire. It was a cheesy early 90s, like, answer to
I didn't
Steven
say
Seagal.
pretty good. I said great.
But it was still pretty good.
Yeah, if you got to qualify something as being cheesy, this is not the category of film I was talking about.
Well, do you remember the movie we watched in the last episode?
What movie did we watch?
Do you remember?
Yeah, with Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren. Yeah, Showdown in
Dolph
Little
Lundgren.
Tokyo. Yeah, remember you talked about how you get the best looking penis I've ever seen on a man.
Yeah, it's just such a, again, not a great movie.
That's a fun movie. That was fun. I think
it was fun, but
I think everybody recommended that movie at the end of the episode, and everyone said it was the greatest movie they've ever seen.
I don't think everybody said it was the greatest movie.
I'm pretty sure they did.
No.
So The Crow really defined my generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I had seen that one.
Yeah. Well, you could watch it anytime it's here. Feel free to take it with you, and
I can't watch it in Europe. It's probably encoded.
Oh.
But I'll just wait for the episode to come out.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just look up online, Dolph Lundgren's penis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't want to look at that.
I'm sure it'll pop up online.
You'll see He-Man's penis. Or the Punisher. Or
no, that's its name.
As we the Punisher. That's his name. Dolph Lundgren's penis name is Punisher.
Or is it all what's it? What's it?
So
Drago.
So as soon as
Jerry.
I'm gonna look away from the penis. So, dear viewer, as soon as Eric Draven gets up from his montage of pain, reliving the death of he and his fiancée, the Crow starts to just kind of instinctively lead him toward. He can see through the Crow's eyes, and he's like, "Oh, that's weird." The camera like kind of does a cool pushy zoomy thing, and he's like, "I'm seeing through the Crow's eyes." And
Beastmaster.
We, as the audience, are immediately on board with the fact that he's got a mission. Because shit's weird. He shouldn't be here. None of this should be happening. And they did a very good job of showing us that. And then the Crow is immediately taking him to his first target, which is Tintin.
Yes. Which I wanted to point out, the one stereotype this movie falls into, Black guy dies first.
Black guy does die first.
Oh, the one stereotype.
Actually, that's not true. The two white guys died first. The white guy and his fiancée.
Yeah, but in the storyline.
Well, and that's not true either. The Asian American and his fiancée, who I think is probably she looked Latina.
I honestly don't know.
Or Italian.
No, I only saw a white dress. In a white dress, everyone looks kind of
white.
Yeah. Darker.
Sure, we can look up her name. I'm sure we'll find out. But
Tintin is warming himself up over a bonfire in a can, and Brandon Lee comes around the corner, and he's just making...
He falls off the rooftop.
Oh, right. Which, by the way, very Assassin's Creed. Feels like Assassin's Creed took that from this. He just kind of swan dives off the rooftop and lands on his back in a pile of junk
and
on top of a lot of corrugated steel, or maybe maybe fiberglass, whatever. And he's like, ha ha ha, because he's learning he can regenerate and he's not going to die. And then he's just got this evil look in his face when he starts charging towards Tintin, and Tintin's all about it. He pulls out his knives. He's like, "Come on!" And then it's an MMA fight. It's great.
It's a great fight. Yeah.
It's that when he throws the knives at him, he knocks him away, and like.
Oh, yeah, that was beautiful. My favorite hit in a movie is in this movie, and it's when Tintin throws like this big hook and hits Brandon Lee, and Brandon Lee's like, and his head just rocks in this really, really gnarly way. It looked so cool.
Yeah, that was a fun fight scene, and even the one when he finally kills him, he like pulls the knife like victims.
Aren't we all?
Like
Victims. Aren't we all?
what a great line! Like what a great comic book line! Like that's
That's like so poetic.
Yeah, it's like the one-liner most movies use to kill the main henchman, and they use it for the very first, or the main villain, and they use it for the first henchman in this movie, which was really cool. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes just to make sure we cover everything. Because, yeah, like I would point out before, like, the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie, they've already used 4 songs from the soundtrack, which is phenomenal. And we
It's just a great soundtrack from beginning to end.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Stone Temple Pilots, Cure, Nine Inch Nails.
Helmet, Violent Femmes, Pantera, did you say Rage Against the Machine? My Life, the Thrill Kill Cult. I know I'm gonna get yelled at.
90s.
What's it?
So 90s.
So 90s, it is. Like I said, the movie came out. I was.
When did we say it came out?
94. I think I was 13. I had to get my friends' parents to get us in because it was an R-rated movie.
Wait, you were 13 in 1994?
Yeah.
You're 49? You're 52? That's not right.
No.
94, 24. Oh, I was 24. Fuck.
I was 4.
Oh.
You're welcome.
I gotta leave.
All right, so he kills Tintin, and that's when,
he gets
children. Respect your elders.
Tintin gives him some information. We don't find out he gives him information until later, but he's following the trail to get to the other killers.
Yeah.
Right.
And he follows it to a pawn shop.
Yeah, to Gideon's pawn shop.
Piss off! We're closed! Gerardo!
He wants his ring.
And while he's there, though, we also flash to Albrecht, who is looking at the 1010 murder scene.
Yeah.
And that's really where you find out that Albrecht used to, they start hinting that he used to be a detective, and now he's on the beat because he pissed someone off. And,
which was this other detective.
Yeah,
Right.
And you meet the other detective where it's the great line when he's like, when he sees the crow and painted in blood on there, he's like, well, what do you call this?
I think you'd call it graffiti.
Yeah, he's like,
I call it blood, detective. I suppose you write it up as graffiti.
Yeah.
like just the attitude he has to him. Like that's Ernie Hudson was. I mean,
Ernie Hudson was great.
Everything Ernie Hudson was in was always good too. Yeah, he did a lot of low budget B movies, and he was always a highlight of those low budget B movies. But yeah, so we see that. So please go on. Where
again, the crow imagery was, in the Batman movies.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, they did the Batman thing exactly the same.
Yeah, but
I
wasn't
totally
the Tim
missed
Burton
that.
Batman before
Oh,
this?
Oh, yeah.
Was it not like that though?
By 5 years.
Wasn't Batman before this? What do you mean?
By 5 years.
Tim Burton's Batman was before this.
Because Tim Burton was 89. This is 94. So yeah.
But the iconic.
No. Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're talking about the
Dark
Nolan
Knight.
Batman.
The Dark Knight series where they did the whole thing.
Yeah, and burned out in the windows.
Yeah. So again, Christopher Nolan ripped off the Crow.
I think a lot of not shame on you. Good for you. It was inspiration. I mean, this movie opened so many creative lines for people to be like, I want to do something like this because it made you feel something.
Apparently, there were a lot of lines done during the movie too.
Yeah, apparently.
A lot of lines.
On the movie, during the movie. I like the pile of Coke that was just,
Right, yeah, because we're trying to, when Top Dollar, when they go into his office, he's
I'd
got
like to take a moment of silent reflection.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out, was that, what did they use, vitamin B, I think, in prop? Was that actually that, or was it actually the real pile of cocaine the crew was using? The rumor was
Nobody used cocaine in the 90s.
the rumor was that I don't remember where I read this, but anytime someone sneezed during a take, they got fined because it was so bad on set. But we've already had a long tangent about coke on another episode with trucks and Stephen King. We don't need to have more cocaine references. I don't think.
Nobody fought any trucks in this. It was all sedans and one mini car.
Oh, shit!
Which is really cool. When you watch them, you realize how much of those were actual miniatures. They couldn't afford to do chase scenes, so most of the chase scenes were done in miniatures, which is so cool because even the one of the best ones was like when they ramped that car off and explodes it would kill T-Bird. That was a miniature.
Ooh.
It looks so good.
It looked so good.
Yeah.
And when the hood blew over, I was like, wow, they just gutted that whole car. And the gasoline explosion was so good. Also, one of the more plausible explosions I've seen. Right, like the car's full of gasoline. It's also full of things that are just meant to be incendiary devices, but then also dynamite and stuff. But then maybe not all the explosives went off because he just threw an incendiary device in the front, soaked the whole thing in gasoline, and so it was a big gas explosion.
But remember the car because that was supposed to be Devil's Night, so the car was supposed to be filled with explosives because they were going to go blow the whole city. Yeah, because they were going to burn. They wanted to see. I want to see a fire big enough for the gods to see.
To notice us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I want you to set a fire so goddamn big the gods will notice us again. That's what I'm saying.
So they're at the Gideon's pawn shop.
Yes.
He goes into Gideon's pawn shop. Gideon doesn't want to let him in. He gets in anyway. Gideon shoots him. He thought that was funny and takes the gun away and then torments Gideon into leading him to the next spot.
Mr. Gideon. Who? You're not paying attention.
And discovers his engagement ring.
Finds his, he
It's
forces
also
the engagement
where he
ring
misquotes the Raven. So, but it's still a cool entrance.
It's a very cool entrance.
But he misquotes the Raven, which is so cool, but he got it wrong. That hurt me as a kid. But
I said, well, maybe it was just a creative choice.
It might have been. It might have been licensing choice for all I know. But it was just one of those ones as a kid I noticed, like, oh no, that's not right.
Suddenly, I heard a tapping.
Sorry.
This tells us a lot about the kind of kid you were.
Who didn't read the Raven by the time they were 13?
By the time they were, who didn't memorize the Raven by the time they were 13?
It was the opening
and care
line.
enough about it to be bent when watching a cool movie.
When watching The Crow.
Because he's supposed to be a cool character quoting a cool poem written by the most gothic, popular
poet ever.
And he misquotes it. But he makes up for it later when he kills Funboy and does a great joke.
I mean, right.
We'll get to that.
Oh, and when he's leaving Gideon's, like when he gets the ring and he knows where he's going next, and Gideon's just swearing at him, and he looks back and he's like, "Is that gasoline I smell?" In his almost George Takei deep, weird, fucking Brandon Lee voice.
Is that gasoline I smell?
So how does he make it out of that pawn shop? Because the whole pawn shop explodes. He runs up
he ran out and up, and his head, he had a burn, it's still got him.
When it blows up, he's out by his legs are on fire.
And I wanted to know what you thought of that explosion too, because there was at least a mannequin standing right in front of that door, and all that comes past and the fire. That looked really cool to me.
That was really cool.
It's actually a cool shot too because they show down the barrel when he shoots and you see
the rings come out.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, there was no CGI back then.
No,
not for that.
No.
That was a great shot.
That was actually
a great shot.
Being the nerd that I am, I looked and it's really creative editing. Because when he shoots, you could see where it cuts to where they're just dropping rings and smoke onto a camera. Because if you watch it, you can actually see the cut. But it's done so well that you have to When this movie came out, they never thought someone's going to go frame by frame,
So it wasn't rings in a shotgun.
Frame by frame.
I thought it was rings in a shotgun. They did such a good job.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it looks like they were the rings were probably that big, and they were poured onto the camera with smoke coming out of it. Because right when he goes to shoot, you see it cut to that. But it's done so pretty. It's so well.
That's good.
That's how you do it without CG. They did it. Yeah, this whole movie.
CGI.
Yeah, the whole movie is done that way, and all the miniatures, all the set pieces, just really create that whole fake Detroit look that just looks pretty.
Pronounced Detroit.
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 That one.
I don't think I can say it that way.
Detroit.
So after Gideon's pawn shop blows up, he runs and that's when he first really meets Albrecht.
Yeah,
Albrecht stops on the side of the street,
right in front of the shop that's still on fire, and they have a really cool conversation. And Brandon,
and then people are stealing out of the pawn shop.
Yeah, and Albrecht's like, "This you're
don't move,
crackhead,"
don't move.
But then these people are, and he's like, "You're dead. Don't move, or you're dead." And I say, "I'm dead." And I move.
That's later in the movie. You got the line right, but that's
no. That was when they first met.
That was when the cops. That's at the end.
That's the cops.
This one he tells them don't move, don't move. He's like, I thought the cops always said freeze.
Freeze.
Well, I'm a cop and I say don't move. And then they talk for a bit. He's like, don't you remember who I am?
I said don't move.
I thought the police always said freeze.
No, but they're right. I thought it was that scene. He's like, I'm a cop and I say don't move or you're dead. And he's like, well, I say I'm dead and I move. And that's when he's friendly. And that's how they begin their friendly. Well, that's how he begins his friendly banter. But Albrecht is just confused by the whole thing. He's not expecting to see. To Eric Draven, who just woke up in a grave, this makes perfect sense. To Albrecht, he's like,
and I say I'm dead. And I move.
What the fuck is this lunatic?
Well, because he says you don't remember. He says I don't have his response. But he's like, well, what about Shelley? Do you remember Shelley?
Shelley. And he's like, yeah, Shelley Webster. She and her boyfriend died last year. It was a bad time for everybody.
And I also, if you look at Eric's response to that, I don't think he knew Shelley was dead. Because when he says, yeah, my friend, she died, my boyfriend took
and then he's just like,
and he kind of goes, that's when he goes back and sits down on the curb. He kind of looks down like, I always thought as a kid that he didn't know she was dead, that he was killing them, looking for her.
Shelley Webster is dead, my friend. I want you to move over to the curb there. Come on, real nice and easy. Come on, move it. I'm gonna wait here for backup.
Oh, and that would make more sense about why this revenge trip is happening, because the soul needed the revenge so he could go be with Shelley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Shelley's like, I moved on, dude.
And it wasn't until later when
go kill some suckers and then join me.
It wasn't until
Shelley's up in heaven with Dolph. Like, have you seen
with
this?
Penis, yeah. Well, it wasn't until later that he touches the cop and realizes that he gets the vision.
Yeah, and he takes it all.
Yeah, you stayed with her the whole time. Yeah.
And
you were with her the whole time.
Again, Brandon Lee did a great job.
We're getting ahead, but let's get to that. But let's work up to. You're right. Let's work up to that, because right now he just.
Don't touch me!
So he's confused. Yeah. There's the looters taken from the pawn shop, and then there is Eric Draven in front of him, and as he's coming to kind of realize that there's more noise over by the pawn shop, he looks over there. There's a noise. He looks back.
And he's gone.
Let's go.
Well, at least I didn't do that. Walking against the wind, shit, I hate that.
Yeah, people
like
are stealing stuff
in the night
out of the pawn shop.
Yep.
That was a Hellboy quote.
Oh. Does he say, was it that part, or was it later when he says something along the lines, it's like, oh, he walked, like, oh no.
No, that was one in the end with the car when he runs out of the car. Oh, he did it again.
Yeah.
I did it again.
No, what's the one he's like, he's like, at least he's not walking against the wind. I hate when they do that. Yeah, exactly.
But it's so dramatic and it looks so good.
And then we go to Gideon is at the bar, and that's when Top Dollar's hint.
The bar called Trash.
And
the top floor of Trash
is
in Gideon's headquarters with a long table and that vault of weapons. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Top Dollar.
Top Dollar, yeah. So, because Top Dollar's sidekick goes down and tells Gideon,
his sister. Oh no, his sidekick. You're right.
Yeah, the Candyman.
Yes, the Candyman. Yep. He's like, you go up. Top Dollar to talk to you. He goes up there and explains what he saw,
and is so disrespectful.
Yes.
To Top Dollar.
Well, because his pawn shop just blew up. He got burnt on his legs and his head.
But also, he's just a habitual complainer. Like, this is the guy that thinks the world owes him something, and he's gonna piss and shit on everybody until he gets what he wants.
And he says that. He says, "So what do I get?"
Yeah.
And that's when he gets stabbed.
I mean, what do I get? My livelihood got flushed away and went swirling.
And then shot.
Yeah.
But like Gideon shares a little joke with him, or sorry, Top Dollar shares a little joke with him first.
Yeah.
And
Let
he
his
kind
guard
of
down.
Michael Wincott, Top Dollar looks past his hair like this, kind of coyly, holding on to a Spanish rapier, which is unfairly long, and Gideon's like, and then he stabs him right in the throat.
Yeah.
And then he won't die.
Ah, fucking die already!
And shoots him twice. But let's not forget also, not only was Gideon being disrespectful, but he also insulted him, saying, that's supposed to be your fucking sister?
Your fucking sister?
Sister? She's supposed to be your sister?
My father's daughter.
Don't you not see the
Daughter of my
resemblance?
father. He's such a dick.
Yeah. Great character.
Also, by the way, there was a scene earlier where Top Dollar and his sister had clearly been like doing it, and she was taking it, and there was a dead girl in the bed.
I think we broke her.
No, we don't know if they did it or if they just both did it with a girl.
Yeah.
Right. And the girl says she has pretty eyes and takes her eyes, and then he's literally smoking her eyes. Like he's, and then you watch him blow it out.
Yep.
This villain was so cool and so well realized. So many things so over the top that maybe you wouldn't accept it in another movie, but in this movie, it just.
Do you think it's the movie or just the way he acted it?
I think it's the way he acted it. I think it's the way the director directed it, the way the DP shot it. Like it just all felt natural. I don't think any one person saved any of the characters or the film. Like this was just a really good team.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
A team with a lot of cocaine.
Team with a lot of cocaine. And it was nice because it was really.
It'll make our team better. No,
it was gothic, but it took the villain to a different level to make him darker than what the gothic vibe would have been.
And like he was such a cool like southern cowboy redneck gothic or something with his gravelly voice and southern kind of drawl.
Well, even you pointed out he kind of looked like
a vampire.
He was a vampire from what was it? Interview with the Vampire came out not too long
he was very
before
much
that.
like Armand or Louis.
Yeah, but he took it to a whole different level, which I really loved.
All right, so after he kills Gideon, where do we go after he kills Gideon?
I think the Crow is on the hunt again, and this time he was looking for Fun Boy.
Fun Boy. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So we cut to Fun Boy and Darla doing drugs in his shitty apartment, which is
and that scene.
Also,
yeah.
What was the drug it was?
Well, no. So we
No,
were
it wasn't morphine. Morphine.
But yeah, Eric's in there before the shooting happens, and Fun Boy just pulls a gun and points it at him, and they're having some fun back-to-back banter. Fun Boy knows he's got the upper hand because he's got the gun. He's like, "You're really fucked up."
Yeah, and he has his hand on the barrel.
Right.
You got me dead bang. It's a terrible line, but it worked so good.
And then he shoots him, and he fakes it. Fun Boy's laughing after he shoots him in the hand. He's going, oh, and
it was really cool because he spins around and he's actually in pain. He's like, ah, and then it stops, and you see on his face it stops, and he's like, I'm gonna have fun with this. Like his face changes.
Right.
And Fun Boy's laughing, and Eric Draven's pretending like it's in pain, but he's laughing with his back to him, like and
it hurt so bad.
Yep.
And he looks at him through his
then it
hand and
closes.
screams, which that was like a really bad special effect. It like you can see the color grading difference between the hand and him.
But remember, this was filmed
really well.
delayed over film because that's how they did imposing, was taking 35 millimeter and putting it over because they didn't have.
I don't think it was a bad special effect because that's what was available at the time. I mean, you're talking about nowadays.
Okay, so bad is the wrong term.
That is the wrong, because now you have all the access to computer generated everything, but it was real. You felt it.
But in '94, I still think if they had a budget, they would have done better. I really think the effect just suffered due to I think this was a $13 million budget,
and it made 50, which is not bad. Not bad. More than doubling your movie?
In the box office, which when you factor in all the licensing stuff, I'm sure it made it. But so then he turns around and he shows his hand close up, and that's when Fun Boy is like, I fucked up.
And he closes on Fun Boy. They fight over the gun. Fun Boy gets shot in the leg. Darla freaks out and runs, and then he proceeds to...
She locked herself in the bathroom.
He kills Funboy and then he drags him into the bathroom.
No, he didn't kill him. He's unconscious.
He's unconscious. He drags him.
But we missed one part because we missed the one part where he does he makes up for his misquoting of the Raven when he does his joke. While he's fighting...
Before he's fighting...
No, he's being shot while Funboy is shooting him. After he shoots him in the hand, it closes up. Funboy starts shooting him, and he does the joke.
Right.
Do you remember the joke?
Jesus Christ walks into an inn.
Yeah, and then gets shot.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Stop me if you heard this one.
He says to the innkeeper...
He hands the innkeeper 3 nails.
He throws 3 nails.
Yeah, gets shot again.
Can you put me up for the night?
And then gets shot again, yeah.
You put me up for the night?
It's a great joke.
It's a really good... Oh, it's rough. You should just show the joke instead of us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I actually told that joke today at the gym.
Yeah, there you go. See, it's a good joke.
I told that joke to a Christian buddy of mine at the gym today.
That's really funny. That's really funny. I got to take a picture of
his
something
hand start
I made
bleeding
at
after you
work
told him?
Look what you've done to my sheets.
All right, so he drags Funboy into the bathroom.
He drags Funboy into the bathroom. He turns the shower on.
Yes.
And then he grabs Darla. Darla comes in with a knife to attack him.
No. She's hiding. And he sees
She has a razor,
right.
yeah.
And then he goes over to her, and she's swinging at him. He's like, "Fucking stop it!"
Oh, and that's one of my favorite scenes where he grabs her arm, and the morphine starts dripping out of her arm.
He tells her how bad morphine is,
and then he gives her this.
Mother is the name of God on the hearts and lips of
children and orphans.
Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children.
Morphine is bad for you. In his creepy deep voice.
Yes, and this is where, in the original version, when he leaves, where he first gets his power stripped away from him by the Skull Cowboy because he broke the rule.
It's like, this is about revenge.
Yeah.
You're not here to help people.
Correct. You're not here to interfere with the lives of or interact with the lives of the living. You're here to just get revenge of what was wrong, the wrong that was done to you. But basically,
the Crow, on the other hand, is like, "Caw!" and he tried to say that, but Eric's like, I don't understand.
Right, it'll speak Crow.
So as he's leaving is when Candyman comes in and sees him, and he just winks at him,
and then rolls back out the window.
Yeah. And that's when he finds Funboy with basically all his syringes in his chest with a crow and blood painted
in
on
the
his chest.
process of overdosing. Like, he's not even dead yet.
Yep. And I think, is that when we cut to the next morning where Darla is cooking breakfast for her daughter?
Mm-hmm.
And her daughter is in buying it and almost ruins the whole thing by talking shit to her mom, but then they work it out.
So what did you take to become Mother of the Year?
Well, the mom goes to throw the eggs away and says, I'm just not cut out for this. And the daughter jumps up and says, I like him over easy.
That to me is the only scene that didn't quite fit the movie. Not because, I mean, it did fit from the mood of it, but it just didn't fit from the acting in it. It felt a bit too forced.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one thing that I did like about it was it kind of created that, it gave the little girl some storyline because she's just hanging out with these 2 adults. She's kind of living on the streets.
Well, and she gets some kind of hope or redemption.
Yeah. And there's a light at the end of the tunnel for this little girl. I don't really care about Darla. I don't,
No, we don't care about Darla.
We don't care about Darla.
We care about the cool
you
girl
care
with
about the girl.
skateboard.
Yeah, that's who you care about. And for me, that scene, gives that girl hope to not necessarily live on the streets the rest of her life.
Eating hot dogs with Albrecht.
Yeah.
Someone already bought me dinner. The police.
Sting bought you dinner?
Flag.
Flag on the play.
Foul.
5-minute penalty.
I'm probably out of order, but somewhere around here is when she finally runs. So she's going skating, and a car almost runs her over, and Eric catches her and pulls her off.
Yep.
And to play along the lines, if you notice when he does that, he hides his face, but he almost is in pain.
Yeah, he's kind of hunched over, hiding his face, but he's just like, fuck, like that took it out of him.
Right, which is, I think, playing along the lines of the Skull Cowboy thing. Is like he saved her, he interfered with the living again.
She's like, it's more like surfing than skating.
Yeah.
Wish it wouldn't rain like this. And he says, it can't rain all the time. And she's like, Eric?
Eric?
And gone.
And gone.
And gone.
Against the wind.
Against the flappy jacket.
Yes.
Tintin's jacket, by the way.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because that's what he says to Albrecht when he's sitting on there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, T-Bird had a guy who shouldn't have played with knives, like the jacket.
Like the jacket.
Like, what a great way to tell someone, like, yeah, like, you're the one who killed him. He's like, they're all dead. They just don't know it.
They just don't know it yet. Yeah.
They died the moment they touched her. But, so she goes back to her apartment and finds the record of, which I gotta say is a pretty good band name. Eric's band name was Hangman's Joke. Pretty good band name.
Which, the name Hangman's Joke, the fact that he had, like, the smiling, frowning faces on the vanity, like, clearly he was, like, a theatrical person, and he was in a band and all that. So that went a long way to suspending disbelief for him doing the face paint the way he did the face paint and being this poetic kind of character. That might be why they stepped away from Mechanic, because this read better.
Of course, I mean, I don't think it was a mistake stepping away from the mechanic side, because like in the comic, they don't say he's a mechanic, but they imply he's a mechanic because they get killed on the side. His car breaks down on the side of the road, and he's trying to repair it, and that's when they get attacked and killed. So it doesn't happen in their apartment; it actually happens on the side of the road, and they imply because he's in Detroit that he's a mechanic.
I see.
Because they don't necessarily say it. Given I read this comic when I was 15, I haven't read it since.
So I'm going to hold you to it.
Trying to remember. I'm 90% sure I'm right, but I may have gotten it wrong. A lot of reading kind of blends together after 30 years.
And that's when the dragons came.
Yeah. Then a guy in a blue suit with a big S landed.
Yeah.
The crow had 3 eyes, right?
Oh, yeah. And then someone throwing a ring into a lava.
Oh,
Yeah.
The Crow, Albrecht, and Superman walk into trash. The bartender says, I think you're in the wrong joke. Gideon saw...
Oh, Gideon's dead.
Sorry, not Gideon. The Candyman saw Eric Draven backflip out of a window.
And went back and told Top Dollar what happened. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember how he worded it, but he worded it really cool.
He had a guitar. He winked at me before he jumped out a 4th floor window like he had wings.
He winked at you.
And then, and Top Dollar's just like,
I mean, how do you react? Like, I'm losing henchmen.
These guys are just having really awesome matter. He and his sister and the Candyman are just like so nonchalant about all of this cray-crayness because of the weird world that they live in. Mm-hmm. And he and his sister are kind of bordering on supernatural spiritual practices to begin with, like smoking that girl's eyes.
Right.
She felt very witchy.
Yeah.
And she also knew about the crow connection and all that later.
Mm-hmm. The crow is his link between the land of the living and the realm of the dead.
Yeah, because she went for the crow immediately. That was her
later on. Yeah.
Smokes and road beers. Be quick.
Smokes and road beers, not cigarettes and beer.
Didn't we already talk about T-Bird's death with the car exploding?
We mentioned the car exploding earlier, but we didn't get to it in our walkthrough of the plot.
Okay.
And he's just in the back seat with a gun. And T-Bird tries to bring up his gun, and he's got the gun. He takes the gun away. And he's like, drive. Skank, standing in the road, is like, T-Bird, come back! Gets hit by a car.
and then steals the car.
And then steals the car. The guy gets out of the car and he's like, you hit my car, you damn asshead.
Yeah. An ass hair or something like that.
No, it was an ass head.
Stupid ass hair, stupid ass hair, stupid ass hair, stupid ass hair.
And the weirdest insults in this, and the weirdest swearing in the movie, because he's like, asshead. And then when they're doing the car chase, T-Bird's driving, and then some cops see him drive by real fast. They both have coffee. The driver goes, what the crap? And just hits the gas. They take off. After. The other cop's like, with his coffee.
Spills the coffee on
After
himself.
having complained about the creamer.
I hate this. I can't even call it cream legally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
but I just want to go back for some reason when the guy that hits in the little tiny car that hits Skank, I always thought he looked like generic Henry Rollins.
What the fuck's the matter with you? Stupid ass hair? Stupid ass hair? Stupid ass hair? Stupid ass hair?
He kind of
Looks
does,
like generic
except
with a ponytail.
bigger.
Yeah.
Except like taller. He was just a big buff dude, and then like little Skank just drops him like a bad habit and steals his car.
And that chase scene is really cool because they didn't have a budget. And so most of they have shots of the car, and then all the chase scenes are miniatures going through the miniature city. But it's done at weird angles that look artistic, but hide the miniature aspect. So it looks like a cool, stylistic chase scene. Not we're trying to save money, so we're doing
right.
It's done to make it really cool.
It's like a cool scene, not a Matchbox.
Right.
And so, when he gets him to the pier and he's got him like all duct taped up in the car, and they're having their moment where he's revealing that he is the guy that they killed last year, and he's like, "You can't be him. You're dead. This is the really real world." And he's like freaking out, and he's getting ready to. He duct tapes his head to the thing with his eyes open so he can't look away. There was so much intimacy in that scene. It's just what I wanted because he was the leader of the henchmen, right? But it felt weird to me that he was getting to the leader of the henchmen before he got to Skank.
Right.
Yeah.
And Skank is still alive, and I'm like, this is the climax. This is and Skank's still out there. And
right.
Skank rolls up just in time to be on the other side of like a little bay or whatever to see the car fly out over the water.
Yeah, because Skank gets taken out by the cops because him and the cops crash into each other.
Yeah.
So he loses his car. So he can't get to that fast enough because he's on foot now.
I know you. I know you. I knew you. I knew you. But you ain't you. You can't be you. We put you through the window.
Yeah.
Trying to getting away from the cops.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's running. The cops got airbagged.
Yeah.
And Skank got thrown out of the car. Yeah. And he gets up and he runs and he sees it and he's like, T-Bird, no. And then he runs back to trash.
But not forget the most iconic scene from the movie happens right there is when he finishes with the lighter fluid. And lights the crow. I mean, that's one of the most iconic scenes. I mean, if I'm not is it? Oh no, on one of the DVDs, I think that's the cover.
Yeah. And it looked so good. Do you think that was a practical effect? Like they actually made a crow shape of lighter fluid and lit it?
Yeah, sure.
I thought it was lighter fluid because how high and burned and how well it burned, it was probably, I would imagine, like a more of a gel than a liquid.
Yeah,
because they put it out and because the edges, the corners were so sharp.
Right,
the corners were so sharp.
And it burned so high.
What would you use?
Yeah. I would have used a combination of lighter fluid and like lamp oil or something just to give it that high burn and that more gritty feel to it.
And in the flame, like it all grew in, like towards the nearest flame.
Right. So cool.
Oh yeah.
So cool.
More stylistic parts.
But but I like Skank getting away, and I like that because that gives me the big scene of give me him.
Just want him.
Yes.
And you can all walk away.
And then so we get a second climax, right? And the first time I watched this, I remember thinking like, that was the climax? But then he just goes straight after Skank, goes to trash.
Because you would think Skank was a throwaway character
and all these guys are gunning up or loading their guns, getting ready for Devil's Night, and we get his favorite line from the whole movie.
Wait, no. The good before that too, because like Skank gets before that whole thing goes, Skank gets back to Top Dollar's lair and tells him what happened, and he's like, T-Bird, fire up, fire up. And Top Dollar's the great line. Maybe we should record this and play it back in slow motion.
Yeah, he's just sitting there like.
Maybe we ought to just videotape this, play it back in slow motion.
And then Candyman's like, yeah. And then he just gets up and decks T-Bird. Yeah. Candyman catches him, puts him down in Top Dollar's chair, and he's like, oh, he's gone. His ghost coming to kill me. Yeah.
His ghost gonna kill me. Hey, it ain't no ghost.
Because like right before that scene is when Candyman sees Eric Draven's grave. Because then he's like, he says something. He's like, yeah, the grave was empty. And that's when
and the witchy sister was like, oh really?
And Skank was like, what grave?
Grave? What grave?
This ghost gonna kill my ass.
This ghost gonna kill my ass. He's just a crackhead. But a crackhead that was really good at violence.
Great character. Great character.
And then Eric Draven shows up at Trash and makes his way through the bodyguards, makes his way upstairs. Yeah, you can't have him. Right. And Michael Wincott, the big bad guy, doesn't do like, you can't have him. He's like, well, you can't have him. And his big hair, like kind of just flopping, and it was...
Well, you can have him.
Fun
but
and
it worked
playful.
well because a moment before, when he's trying to get his crew fired up, he starts out. You don't want us to light the city on fire. He's like, no, I want us, and he explodes because that's when he starts yelling.
Are we having fun or what?
Your mother must be proud of you.
He repeats it. I feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook. Your mother must be proud. Like he's exploded. And then when Eric shows up, his cool comes back. He's got his gang riled up. Now he can come back and he can be cool. Yeah. And he says, I just want him. He's like, well, you can't have him.
Nice outfit. Not sure about the face though.
And Eric, he comes in, table. He throws the chair away and then just jumps up and sits Indian style on the table. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh wait, you can't call it Indian style anymore.
Crisscross applesauce.
He throws the chair out of the way and jumps up and sits crisscross applesauce on the table.
Well, that fits more with the line of the movie, the way the movie was written. So, the crisscross applesauce. Daggone it.
What the crap?
You're not wrong.
But then the good line is when he says he can't have him, and his response is,
I see you have made your decision. Now let's see you enforce it.
And he stands up.
Right, shoot
and
me.
he's like, shoot.
I'm bored. Fucking kill this. Kill him already.
And he falls off the table, and oh man, what did he say after that? He was like, ooh.
Yeah. When all the guns,
and everybody starts laughing.
And
and then some white guy number 5 in the glasses goes to the other table
with a big cheesy beret on,
and a Mac 10
wasn't hiding any of the squibs. The big beret that was like this tall wasn't hiding squibs at all.
and he's got a Mac 10. He's like, he's gone. Pah!
Then his beret blows up.
And then that awesome gunfight where he is getting shot to shit and just shooting back the whole time. And they borrow a lot from John Woo, the 2-gun.
Well, even if you watch a lot of those henchmen, there are a couple of them there that are really famous Hong Kong stuntmen, and choreographers. So there was a lot of really good. For God's sakes, they're working with Bruce Lee's son, so they brought in.
Well, and when he gets hit, like one time he gets hit in the shoulder, he's like, bah, 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 keep shooting, then rings his arm back up and.
But for me, if I'm a henchman, I don't care who I'm working for. If I shoot a guy 5 times and he comes at me, I'm not going to keep shooting him. I'm going to leave.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
Like, this gun's not doing anything.
Right.
And then
I'm not going to go for another gun. I'm going to be like, all right, I'm out, guys.
I'm out.
Good luck.
And as
Peace
these
out.
people are discovering that, and some of them are trying to leave, he intercepts them and then throws them out a window to fall down onto the audience.
Pulls the sword out.
Pulls the sword out, starts killing people with the sword, sticks the sword in the table, decides, I'm just going to fall back on my back and then donkey kick this dude in the chest, who then falls out a window.
Yep.
Kills pretty
Until
much everybody.
eventually, it's just him in the room. Skank's hiding under the table, and he shoves the sword down through the table. He runs out from under the table.
And then not a good bang to be a bad guy. He said Skank. I ain't Skank. Skank's dead. Skank over there. Yes, he is.
Skank's dead.
That's right.
Out the window he goes. Lands on a cop car, and the cop, what the crap?
What the crap? And it was the same cop car,
right.
But it was the other cop that said, what the crap?
Do you think they were trying to go for like a PG-13 rating or something?
think so.
PG?
I think so.
Because there was no real vulgarity in it. It was
There's
just
no way
always-
they were going for a PG because, like, the amount of violence, blood. I mean, there was a little bit of boob in it. The drug use. I don't think they were going. The drug use alone would have taken an R.
What boob was there in it? I don't remember.
The
girl
dead
that-
woman
yeah.
in the beginning.
Oh.
They wrote her
Yeah, there
over
was
her
one
entire
boob,
boob,
right.
including nipple was.
Yeah. And then you saw Biling's butt when she's in the shower. So a little implied nudity going on
Right.
there. But oh yeah, we can
Wait.
You don't want to bring him out?
Yeah, but no.
Well,
Crow toy.
Well, this was mid to late '90s Todd McFarlane toys.
Yeah.
He made a bunch of
99.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, when he was making those
Yeah.
awesome, cool
Yeah.
toys.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of the Spawn toys upstairs. So.
But so now Skank's dead. So now, depending on which storyline in the movie you go, like in the comic book-esque story, his quest is done.
Well, even in this movie, his quest is done. He's going back to the grave.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he's sitting down next to, he's in front of Shelley Webster's grave, and he's just kind of like laying there. And
Right.
I got the feeling
Tormented.
that he was dying.
Yeah.
Like his energy seemed to be just like he
Right.
was getting tired, and he's just sad, and he's lonely, and these guys are dead, and now he gets to feel. Except he cries in the middle. That's where his mascara was, in the middle of his eye.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
Crying.
Yeah, and then
And he cries up.
while he's going down, he hears what's the girl's name?
Sarah.
Sarah. He hears Sarah call out to him.
Right.
Through the crow.
And he sees her through the door, and he's like, "Motherfucker, what?" In the church that happens to be at the side of the graveyard, and
Right.
it's a whole big trap because they're trying to trap him to get his crow power.
Yeah.
Right, because she grabbed the crow.
And he only
gotcha.
has one crow power.
Right.
As opposed to two?
I mean, in cars you want more horsepower, so I imagine like in action.
Well, so basically you want murder of crow power.
Murder, yeah. He's just attempted murder.
Right.
That joke again.
He has power, but it is power you can take from him.
I like him already.
They're all in the church. They're leading him into a trap to go to the church. So he walks his way up to the church. And if you look at so there's some scenes on the internet, you can see images. I don't know if there's any video, but there's images. This is where he runs, the last time runs into the Skull Cowboy. And the Skull Cowboy in the story tells him, your quest is over. You go back to your grave. These are actions for the living, not for you. So if you go in there,
you're on your own.
Not only
this is the police chief saying, "You're on your own."
Right. But not only that, too, is not only do you have no powers, you're going to be stuck in limbo because
like me.
Yeah.
Except that, but again, that's comic, and that's not this movie. Because in this movie, he just marches in there.
Right.
The crow precedes him, and it is a gorgeous shot. And he's like, everybody's looking at me because I'm the fucking Brandon Lee. I'm the crow. And then actually, everybody's looking at the actual crow because they're like, "That's the source of power.
Yeah.
It's right there."
And that's where Candyman shoots it.
Right.
Yeah, with his and the crow did not immediately explode and die because it was a 9mm.
Fun fact.
Even though it's a big
Just-
rifle.
Just for you guys,
Yeah.
the church that they're going in is actually Gothic style.
Oh, there you go. So it's very fitting.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
If it's not Baroque, don't fix it.
It's definitely not Baroque.
That's why they didn't fix it. It was a very fucked up church.
But they take the crow out, so that in the movie that implies that he loses he's weak now. Now that the crow's injured, he can be injured.
Right, because she gets shot then.
And he gets shot, he's on the ground laying there, and...
Well, and then there's that big gunfight in the church, and he's just trying not to get shot again.
And the cop gets shot.
And he's in a crossfire, but Albrecht comes in with a flare gun and his Beretta.
No, first Top Dollar, he's like, Candyman sees the crows, and crows, it's alive over here. And Top Dollar's like, kill it! And right when he goes to kill it, the flare comes flying in, and then Albrecht shoots.
That's right.
in
And
him.
then it's the gunfight, and then Bai Ling grabs the crow and runs up into the belfry with it.
Yep. So she runs up there. Top Dollar goes after, follows along, and Albrecht's like, "All right, I got a plan. You get in front, they shoot you, run out of bullets, I arrest him. Mm-hmm. He's a great plan, and shows him that he's bleeding from his shoulder. I thought you were invincible.
I was. I'm not anymore.
and again, it's so matter of fact. It wouldn't work in another movie, but it did work with these people,
right?
And in this cast, this film.
Yeah, it is an odd delivery, but it adds a little lightheartedness that it kind of needed for that.
And so they kind of like sneak upstairs and divide and conquer.
No, Albrecht gets shot. He goes up there shooting, and Bai Ling shoots him right in the chest and drops him, and he stays there, and Eric goes up. The only reason he gets past Bai Ling, because she had the gun, was the crow scratches her eyes out, she falls down, and she dies.
Right.
And then he goes after Top Dollar.
Which is very poetic justice that the crow went after her eyes, because she was, in this movie, she was interested in people's eyes.
Yeah.
True. And crows typically go for eyeballs.
Yeah.
They're tasty.
They are easy to eat, I think.
Yeah.
And they smoke really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he has that cool fight on the roof.
The rooftop fight.
It was really cool. And he goes to get, like, Top Dollar's got a katana, and he's like, I don't want to fight against a katana. He goes over and he grabs a lightning rod, and lightning strikes the lightning rod when he grabs it, and he screams. That's really good. He's like, fuck!
Yeah. And then he rips it off, and now he's got a lightning rod sword.
Yeah, well, a lightning rod blocking implement at least, right?
Well, there's a point on the top, so I guess he could...
Defending. He did more defense with the lightning rod, you know.
And they go into a fight, and then Top Dollar
stabs him in the back eventually.
Yeah, he gets the lightning rod out of his hand, but Eric got the kind of was going to win, but Sarah had fallen in a hole, and he goes to try to save Sarah. And as he bends down, Top Dollar stabs him right in the back and drops him.
Yeah, and they have a moment where we get to see some humanity from Top Dollar, albeit very narcissistic humanity.
He did put a smile on my face.
He did put a smile on my face.
But if it's any consolation to you, you have put a smile on my face.
But he kind of gives Eric respect.
Yeah.
And that was nice. And then he tells Eric that he's responsible for everything that
Nothing happens in this town without my son.
And he's like, oh, sweet. This is revenge. And then he kind of gets a little bit of himself back. Not that he needed it.
He did need it, because when he touches him, he goes through that whole scenario with his wife
right.
again.
Because if he didn't have the power back, he wouldn't have been able to transfer the pain that he got from being from touching Albrecht.
Right.
I have something to give you. I don't want it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, Albrecht had experienced
15 hours of pain all at
30.
once.
Yeah.
30, yeah. Sorry, thank you.
30.
30 hours of pain all at once, and then that basically blows up Top Dollar's brain.
30 hours of pain.
And
he goes limp, and he
falls and gets impaled
by the
through the
gargoyle.
chest and through the back of his head, out his mouth.
And then the gargoyle's mouth, just blood's pouring out. You see it for just a split second.
That's really good.
But yeah, the blood is just pouring out of the gargoyle's mouth, which is kind of nice. And so now his revenge spot is ended. So he pulls up Sarah. They go down. They check on Albrecht. And we find out, while he sits with Albrecht, he lights up a cigarette. This whole movie is one big anti-smoking ad.
Oh, yeah. I'm quitting as of now.
Yeah.
I fucking love that when he's in Albrecht's apartment. He's like, you shouldn't smoke these. Takes a drag, blows it out. They'll kill you. Puts it out.
Takes it out of his mouth. Yeah.
But then at the end of the movie, he lights up the cigarette, gives it to Albrecht. He puts it in the gross.
I'm quitting.
I'm quitting
now.
these. Yeah. So the movie's a big anti-smoking ad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really anti-anything, any substance abuse. Morphine is bad.
Morphine is bad.
Well, he didn't say much about the cocaine.
Yeah.
Maybe cocaine is okay.
He wasn't interested in helping those people.
Well, he probably couldn't say it because the whole crew would have revolted.
Right.
It would have been cool to see though.
They would have walked out.
When
Brandon Lee was still alive.
When the crow held on to Darla and the morphine pumped out of her veins, which is a really
love that
cool
scene.
effect. It would have been very interesting to see the cocaine come back out of their nose.
But were they doing cocaine? They were just injecting.
The Top Dollar was.
Top Dollar was, right.
You know, he just like grabs Top Dollar and he's like, cocaine is bad for you. And it's just like
13.
It's like a magic trick.
13
It keeps
hours
coming
of pain, and it just
but it comes out the way it went in, so it's just powder, like
Exactly.
with clouds of smoke.
But so Eric goes back to his grave, and then next we see Sarah there, and the crow's there with the ring.
Before that happens, like the ghost of Shelley comes back
'cause he
to
laid
Eric,
there.
and they get to have a moment, and then we see both of the graves undisturbed.
Yep. And the crow is on top with the ring.
With the ring. Gives the ring to the girl.
Who is just totally chill with like, thanks, and then walks away.
Yep. Thanks.
Like, get it, we can't be friends. Deuces.
Right, deuces. She does that too, deuces.
Deuces.
Don't remember that part.
Yeah.
Keep it real, dog.
Black Crow.
And then it ends with her. It ends with the same way it opened, with an aerial shot of the miniature city, which looks so cool, and her doing a voiceover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would definitely recommend this movie. I would recommend this movie to anybody of any generation, anytime, always. This is a great, watchable film.
Cult classic.
Cult classic, and it did a graphic style of film and dramatic silhouettes and action in the vein of like Sin City and 300 before they were even napkin drawings.
All right, so I need you guys to pause. Let's hear from you.
Oh yeah.
Well, I said pause. Oh, yeah. And you both said, oh yeah. Let the woman speak.
$240 worth of pudding.
Oh God, I want pudding so bad. Vanilla. I would certainly recommend the movie, but it depends a bit on who and how old they are. Because I'm pretty sure that I saw The Crow when I was younger, like somewhere in the teenagers. And although I did have a goth phase as well, I didn't comprehend the movie well enough to really get into it. And it only got to me much later when I was able to understand it. So yeah, it depends a bit on the person and the wavelength they're on, but it is a masterpiece of art.
I would have loved the cowboy in the movie because I feel like that creates a depth that the visual, you don't get from the visual aid or the storytelling in this movie, that there's a guardian basically watching over him and telling him, this is your mission, this is your, this is your story, this is your curse, whatever you want to call it. And this is all you can do. I would have liked to have had that storytelling as part of that. So thanks for bringing that to the table.
That's why I bring it. I think it adds a neat development, but now that I think about it, because like it's one of those things, depending on the dialogue, the reason they could have cut it is if he was just there to be an exposition dump, I could see why they cut it. If the dialogue was scripted properly, that character could have really rounded out the story really well.
Yeah.
But done wrong, could have just been an exposition dump and then really turn this into a B movie.
Well, then you're talking about, if the movie's done wrong, then the movie's done wrong. I think,
sorry, would you recommend?
Oh, absolutely, I would recommend The Crow. It's a phenomenal movie. It was, Brandon Lee had a great, it was by far the best thing he had ever done, And unfortunately, it was the last thing he had ever done, which Richard brought up, which he wasn't supposed to bring up. But, whatever.
I'm a bad person.
You're a great person, Richard.
I do want to say
one
thing, just glancing at this, I thought you might like this, because I didn't. Before Sin City and The Dark Knight rose, there was The Crow. Like, that's actually, that's written on the back.
That's dope.
So, like, obviously, I'm going to recommend this movie. Incorporating the soundtrack into it so well was not something that I remember before that, and still, when it's done today and done right, it has huge impact.
I used to listen to this soundtrack on repeat.
Yes, the soundtrack is still good, still great, but it's one of those things like, we mentioned James Gunn did it right, but then you look at like Zack Snyder, who does it wrong, where he puts music in and it's just like, what? No. So like, if it's done right, Gunn does it right. They did it right on this. It makes a huge impact on the movie.
I also like how sometimes the music is diegetic and sometimes the music's extra diegetic.
What's that word mean?
Sometimes the music is separate from the scene and the audience gets to experience it, but the characters in the film do not. But sometimes the music is what they're playing at trash. Yeah. Like when they have the final conflict to a really cool rock and roll song, and that's the song that's playing downstairs.
Right.
So thank you to little Robert Smith for joining us.
Thank you, Robert Smith, for one of my favorite songs of ever.
Yes. And
one of my favorite songs of ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like that song.
Disintegration was the greatest record of all time.
Caw, caw, bang, fuck, I'm dead!